You're listening to Polymatic.media, episode number 31 for January 7th, 2018. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going? Happy New Year.
Yay!
Yay,
But
new year.
Isn't it until like the 4th that you can say Happy New Year to somebody?
Is it really? What?
Specific amount of days before you can, before you're not allowed to say it anymore. I've been going out of my way to not wish people a Happy New Year this year because it's been aside from just wishing it at the moment, just not after the first day. It's like
I think we all go through a phase of that, like for these holiday things where we're oversaturated by people's attention and marketing and whatever. It's flooded in our culture or whatever it is. So for example, there were years I wouldn't say I've just sort of shoved it under as happy holidays, but I used to say something like happy Hanuma Kwanzaa or whatever it was. I had something real, like very consolidated, easy to say, and I would type that out and I would say it in person. And at this point, I'm just
disappointed you forgot Festivus.
Yeah, whatever. But the point is that like I just say happy holidays and I leave it at that. I keep it as generic as possible because there's, it really doesn't matter. But I also been in places where, a cashier says, "Oh, happy holidays." And the whole lady just goes right off on her. And I'm like, lady, get over it.
Just be happy that somebody wished you a good time. I mean, come on.
Well, I get the uncomfortableness of that. There was in the U.S. we have these like mini markets called 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And obviously now in Japan too. But so there used to be this one 7-Eleven, and where I live, they don't really show up in the places where I'm typically at all the time. They're just in, pockets in states across the whole, country. So getting to my point was I would stop off this one place and they had a very particular thing that I liked, and it happens to be one of those alternative paths on my way from work to going back to home. And I used to stop off there, and there was this very polite, nice girl who was at the cashier, but she would say like "God bless you" or in a very religious tone, in a very religious neutral way, and she was very creepy about it. And that's the only like one of those case examples where I was like put off by one of those kind of scenarios. For me, it wasn't like happy holidays. It was like, oh, and may God be with you. Here's your change. Like it was just weird. So I don't know. Yeah. So anyhow,
I live in a very, very religious free country.
Oh yeah. Good.
So there's not much. Well, near the city I live in, there's lots of religious people around it. Yeah. But not as much in it. There's not much of that going on here. So everybody just, everybody has their own thing and nobody really cares about it. So
yeah.
It's really
in the US, I think the religious, the people who are religious are not the majority, but they're the vocal majority, right? They're the ones who make lots of noise about everything. And so you get this impression that the religious is very, the U.S. is very religious, which is, I don't know if that's the case. I think most of the people that live in the U.S. Couldn't care either way. But our school systems and everything else are very rigid to, as being the only Jewish kid in where I grew up in elementary school, no one was celebrating Hanukkah or recognizing it or even representing it, right? Not even the slightest. But again, one out of, X number of people. Why would they? So, but anyhow, I'm going to stop bringing the whole podcast down for the year.
Well, speaking of something that happened last week.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a kerfluffle in the IT world. I was a little bit stressed this week because I knew by Tuesday that something was coming, and by Wednesday it had a name.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Wednesday, or did it have a name by Thursday? It's been a weird week for me because I've been not sleeping very well. I took a day off, but still had to go work because other things. I was like, yeah, it's really messed up first week.
So you're saying you had a meltdown?
No, I didn't have a meltdown.
But it's called meltdown as one of the aspects of one of the bugs.
There's two. There's like three. Two are called Spectre, and the other one's called Meltdown. Meltdown basically is it allows processes to read protected memory. Well, actually, memory from other programs. Tricking the processor in trying to do reading outside of, for example, an array or something like that.
Right.
And because certain processors do like speculative lookups or like speculative executions, I think that they called it. They basically try to execute some of the code, which is actually chopped up into parts, before it's actually executed. So it's like, great, speed up, but it does actually, execute stuff already. So you can eventually just read outside of your array and read some other parts of the memory. And if you do it fast enough and many times enough, you can eventually read things for example, passwords or certain things and things that are protected, things that are part of the kernel. So if you want to look a little bit and know a little bit more about this, the Polymatic.link/dx for video from Computer File, who to explain a little bit more about Meltdown and Spectre.
Yeah, I was gonna plug this in as a, and then I realized I wanted to go look at your link. Oh, it's the same video. So I was like, I don't think John. He posted the same video I did. Okay, so just a couple little bits that might help unpack the understanding of this a little bit. So I'm sure whether you're an IT person or not, you've heard about like, oh, your hard drive is fragmented. So basically what this means is hard drives, typically not solid states, but hard disk drives. Typically what they do is it's a big old high-speed magnetic particle record. And what I mean, all that means is like, you have a record and your needle basically goes from the outside inward, right? Just like CDs do that with a laser. Well, hard drives do this with magnetic heads that read magnetic particle alignments. And it goes from the center in, and then they are sectioned off. They are partitioned off, but they're sectioned off in sections. And they're grouped in sections, basically. And then they have these little blocks, and these blocks can contain a certain amount of, alignments, right? And so memory is also almost measured in the same kind of thing. It's lots of little switches that are grouped together, and then there's sort of little blocks of memory and bits and bytes and kilobytes and so on. So what ends up happening is most of the memory management tools are happening inside your operating system. And the software does the protection. But if you can get to the hardware level of access to memory, that's when the processor is supposed to give some protection there. And this is where these kind of bugs and exploits come in, is it's directly attacking that area or trying to make instructions that calls to the processor to do things for it to get to those areas and sections and blocks of memory, or bytes of memory, to be more specific.
What the thing is that it's not the memory like the little memory banks you put into your computer.
Right.
It's actually the memory on the processor itself that's the problem, because it's reading the cache, right? You're storing stuff in there, like for example kernel code or encryption keys, passwords, things that you're working on right now. For example, you're working on something in another browser tab. Now this thing, Meltdown, can allow you to, before the patches, it could allow you to read memory from another tab or memory from anything in the processor memory.
Right.
So there's like 3 caches, L1, 2, and 3, I believe, and you could go into any one of them. I don't remember.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, but that's Meltdown. That's allowing you to read other parts. Spectre is a little bit more insidious because it allows you, and it's harder to fix, because it allows you to trick another program into reading memory that you prepared. So you could write something down in memory and then allow another program to read that memory. So you could trick a password manager or a virus scanner or whatever to do that kind of stuff, and that's even more insidious. But
you also have to know what areas of memory to target. Otherwise, you're just going to be getting junk back. Everyone thinks like, oh, well, I always put this one cup in the cupboard above my sink every single time. Yeah, but memory doesn't work that way. You open up that one tab and it puts it way off into the other, cabinet, and then might put it in your fridge, and then it might stick half of it, half the sandwich in the drawer and the other, side of it in the dishwasher. Memory is organized, but it's tagged, and there's basically, managers to maintain where things go. In the cache, it's basically a big old load up all your encryption keys, store that for a moment, process it, and then dump it back out.
There's memory management in that too. The problem is that the reason this works is because the processor is trying to execute things before it's supposed to. So instead of trying to check for if that area is actually for this program, it just skips that part. It executes them in parallel and then reads that data. It wasn't supposed to, but it still does. So you're basically intentionally writing bad code, right? You're intentionally trying to read over what you're supposed to be reading. And that's how that works. Now, the exact workings of Spectre, I don't exactly know. I have more of a grasp of what Meltdown does, because from what I understand, the Spectre is a lot harder to do. But Meltdown is also very, very, very big problem for cloud-based computing. So if you have a virtual machine somewhere, people could be reading your data right now if it hasn't been patched yet. Because this can go across multiple, across the host virtual machine thing. So
yeah, I will tell you though, after this all came out, I got an immediate update for my laptop that updated my BIOS. And I don't know if that was it's January and top of the year, here's a new BIOS update, or it could have been absolutely related. Maybe the manufacturer of my laptop responded very quickly.
Well, it's not a BIOS update. This is not something you can actually fix quite.
No, I understand. But I just thought it was unusual that I was getting very specific set of rapid updates immediately, well after the news. Well after being hours after the news.
No, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. Debian, for example, still hasn't rolled out their updates, and it might be different tomorrow when this thing gets released. But
of course, some of it can be patched by the OS, which comes with a something is sort of looking for the problem and trying to manage the issue, which then could drop a lot of, as most of the first headlines is you're going to lose some performance. But then the other thing is the other stuff about something that basically protects or manages how it reads internal cache on the chip in your core. All this stuff is going to be related to having to get a new processor that has a new design that that does a protection built in such a way that this can't happen.
Yeah, right? Well, from what I understand is that Intel is going to come out with some stuff to fix some things.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to see if they actually are going to do that. It might take months for them to do it.
I didn't do the Polymatic link on this. I certainly have resent it to you recently. But there was that video, I don't know, a couple of years ago, that I watched in 2017. That was a guy who was just talking about, there's so many mysteries in our chipsets, and him going through and hitting all the, access or flags and all this stuff. And I'm doing a pretty good job of documenting it and reporting it to the manufacturers. Whether that actually made a real impact, I don't really know. I'm not followed up on this guy or the corresponding related video story. But let me see if I can find that. I think this also might give other people who are just curious, even if you're not really an IT-centric minded individual, you might get some better sense of it. I'll have to look for it. and maybe towards the end of the show, we'll bring this up.
Well, and you can find that link at Polymatic.link/E7, and it's breaking the x86 instruction set.
Yep. Okay, so I had a thought that was related to this, and I totally blanked out on it. But I have a different thought that I just want to kind of inject in for a second. So, look, for those who are getting super anxiety and paranoid about a lot of this stuff, sadly, a lot of the things you're supposed to protect you is there's security through obscurity. And this is a well-known practice for a lot of people. First fingers to start moving in your direction, I articulated that really badly. The first place to start pointing your fingers is start looking at your credit card companies and your financial institutions and whatever. This is why people hate Bitcoin, because it's accountable. And a lot of our security infrastructure and systems are old, outdated, and are not accountable. And I will not tell you to ask me how I know, because I worked in various places throughout my career, and I do know. But your comfort zone for security is a lot more insecure than you realize. And if you just happen to know the right beginning places, you can unlock a lot of stuff. And it takes individuals who are looking for problems for good reasons and are being honest, and like that guy didn't go out and hack out the world. He provided this information back, but he was also trying to fulfill or complete his curiosity of understanding. So there were white hats,
both that guy and the team from Google that did the discovery, right? They at the same time were working on the same problem.
Right. And, it just happens to be that what a lot of these companies do is they say, hey, we know we think there's a problem here. We think you guys should look at it. And sometimes these companies don't always have, the core of what I wanted to say originally was that there's a lot of these cases where somebody built something in the 80s, someone tacked onto it in the 90s, and only those maybe few people in the world know something about it. And then they go and they retire. And there's a lot of knowledge overlap and not a lot of knowledge transfer that doesn't correlate into documentation. And when you get into very highly dense circuitry for things like this, it might be hard to find problems unless you know where to look. And so sometimes things that are never thought out to be a problem, and it gets into that sort of security through obscurity, it will never be a problem. Don't worry about it. Then it actually becomes exposed as a real problem because people forgot to maintain or address it as time went on. Because those resources aren't with the company anymore or on the planet anymore or whatever, right? So, just keep in mind, don't allow yourself to get so much anxiety and paranoia about everything, because if you just sat down with lots of experts, you would just be
more afraid than ever.
You'd be more afraid than you realize, and you realize how fragile these systems and the thinking on these things are. And oftentimes in modern day, they don't hire well-educated, well-knowledgeable experts. They just hire somebody. A lot of businesses look at IT people and go, "Oh, you're a wizard. You're a wizard. You're a grand wizard. Okay, fantastic. You go do the thing I want." Right? And that's a bad philosophy. You need to hire the right kind of skill. That's it for these kind of areas. And, most of the time these companies do hire people that are on the path for doctorates and are very educated and very talented. But over time, things happen. And don't let yourself get so paranoid. Everything is hackable. It's just a matter of effort and time. And, if you're a smart company and you have a weakness, then you reinforce it by hardening up things. So, all right, rant is off.
Hack the planet, man. Hack the planet.
Now you're gonna shut down everything. I'm gonna air gap all my. I'm never touching my smartphone again.
Just the best thing to do is just dump everything and move to a cabin in the woods.
don't move to a cabin in the woods. Then you'll find yourself into a movie.
Yeah, or attacked by bears.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from that. Hey, look, there was Alan's second or third rant for the show in the year.
Yay. Yeah. So I got a new headset. Alan has not been complaining, but he's been talking about his Jaybird headset. So I finally saw a discount for the Jaybird Freedoms this week, and I got one of them. And I was using the wings wrong.
Oh, is that you figured that out since then?
Well, you just told me, so
yeah, because it's so just not obvious. You would think, and I understand they're just manufacturing these things, making these things little wings, these wingtips. So I don't know the exact origin, but the reason the Jaybird is called Jaybird is because they created those little wingtips that they wrap around their buds.
Okay,
and I don't know if that's their invention. And that was their sort of pivot on how to do this better to make sure they don't fall out, or if everyone's just been copying them. I don't really know. I don't know the origin of that, but I know that's why Jaybird that was part of its origin. That was a thing they started doing that was a core component of their earbuds. Now, with that said, they're meant for people who do sports stuff. So people who run or in the gym, or doing aggressive movement while they're listening to their music. The scenario for that, to achieve that well, is more difficult than the casual person that slips them in and sits on the couch. But what comes along with that is some smarter ideas of how to make sure those earbuds stay in and are comfortable.
So I'm not a very runny person, so I keep running. I do run once a week right now, so that's something I want to change. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what I usually use them for is when I just go walk to work or something like that. And one of the problems I've been having is that whenever I use my headset, and I have one with a plug that goes into my computer, my phone.
Right. Yep.
I keep yanking it out when it gets caught on something. And that's obviously not good for a phone, and not good for the headset either. So
yeah, I've done that too, and I do have very nice padded that sit over the ear headsets, but I wouldn't walk outside with those. Right?
No. I mean like a headset, as in just earbuds, right? So I have those earbuds, and
then I
yank out that wire. And
I've done that
wrecked. Yeah. I do maybe 2-3 headsets a year on that. So I finally decided to get some of these and see if that works. I don't like the sound that much though. So at first I had a problem because Spotify has an EQ in it, and I had it set to something because I had headphones plugged in and I was using that.
Yeah.
But as soon as you try to do that with these Jaybirds, it also has an EQ in it. So stuff sounded really weird and distorted and crap. So I eventually just turned it off in Spotify, because in the Apple Music app, it didn't have that problem. I could just play the music without having that problem. So I went to Spotify, turned off the EQ. It was like, yes, this is the problem. And then it sounded okay.
Yeah.
I currently have it set to flat as possible, just a straight line. And I'm going to try different types of settings later, see if that makes it sound better or something.
Pretty good sense of what I like my EQ to sound like. I'm typically not looking at an actual EQ, right? I'm usually very simple-minded about it, where I increase the bass and the treble. And essentially what you end up doing is creating yourself what they would call a V-shape profile in an actual EQ that is basically allowing you to reduce and gain certain frequencies along the chain. So anyhow, to that point, I have that same kind of thing. There's a little moment of calibration for it, right? So for me, I forget what I normally do, but without connecting them up and looking, Jaybird has an app. Now, here's the thing. Here's a disclaimer about this. I think the second generation of the Freedoms were the first to be able to do this, and then the X3s, and then from there forward. what you can do is you can use the Jaybird app where you can tweak and program the earbuds directly. So that means that if you were to connect it to, your friend's iPhone or something, it still carries along. And the only way to reprogram it is through the app.
Yeah.
So
that's what I did.
Yeah. So I didn't get the Freedoms for all kinds of reasons. One, they were way expensive. They had a lot.
€59.
Yeah, in your case, but normally they're a lot more.
They're 145 usually.
Yeah, and I heard they were good, but they weren't. They were one of the better headphones in this scenario, but they weren't the best. And then the X3s came out. Actually, originally I started with the X2s, and they were pretty good sounding. One of the things for them is you connected your USB cord up to the headset themselves to charge. And they were a little bigger. And their sound was pretty good. Then when I bought the X3s, just to get the next version, they went with the thing they stole from the Freedom, which is this little cradle hot shoe adapter that actually is the connector for the power, which made the X3s leaner, just like they are in the Freedoms. But the only problem with that is I've not lost it yet, and I have more than one, so I could get that cradle back if I needed to from somewhere else. But I just keep it in a little pouch, and I keep a regular maintained where is that pouch sort of schedule of when I'm using them. I sort of track it well enough so I don't lose that little pouch along with the headset. And so that's how the power goes in. And so I haven't yet had a problem over the years, but it's a very losable little dongle, so to speak. And it's just like a little whatever micro USB and then that little cradle, and that's how you charge them.
You've had them for a while, right?
Yeah, I've had them for a while. In fact, I even gifted a pair to a friend. He looked at me like, okay, thanks for your gift. But I don't know, maybe it will flip his impressions of it when he actually starts trying to use them.
How's the battery?
So here's the thing: the Freedoms are 4 hours, the X3s are 8 hours. And I can
these are also 8 hours, but you have to put the clip on and then
I don't have to recradle it. I'm saying 8 hours without like a charge.
Well, the cradle has a charger in it. It has a battery in it too.
Yeah, so the one with the X3s does not.
So I've been thinking about buying another set, taking that cradle apart, and building one with a bigger battery in it.
You could also just pop out a USB battery pack, plug it into the thing.
Yeah. But with the clip and then the thing on the cable itself, it's very heavy. That's annoying. And one of the biggest problems I have with it, it's on one side. The little, I understand why it's there on that side, but you could have made it symmetrical, put another battery on the other side as well.
Yeah.
And then just have it be in balance. Right now, I feel like I'm being jerked to the right because of the thing on the right.
So I'm never connecting that charger thing. Again, the X3s are self-contained, without the exception of that it needs that little tiny cradle. Now, for me, I don't know what the Freedom one was. When I first got the X3s, I'm like, oh man, it would have been nice if they put a little battery in the charging cradle, but they didn't. The charging cradle is like, take one of your thumbs, look at your thumbnail. It's not even that big, right? At least for me,
the charging cradle is bigger than the one on the
Yeah. So for mine, it's just the dock to the power. And I will tell you a couple things that I like about the X3s, and this isn't in contrast. I'm not disappointed you bought the Freedoms, but if I would have told you that the X3s would have been worth it. And I still believe they are. Now, with that said, I've never listened to anybody, AirPods, right? So I can't make an exact comparison to that. How great are they? I don't know. I will tell you, after I've already bought them and had them for, half a year, the X3s, all the tech reviewers have all said very fundamentally the same exact things as I already knew by having them, including, like, you know, everybody's favorite tech reviewer, MKHB. He called them his favorite, you know, earbuds.
Well, he said the same thing about the Freedom. So
yeah. So I will tell you a couple things. The X3s have really good sound given their small size. They have pretty good isolation as long as you got the right kind of, tip. For me, they have to be foam tips. It can't be silicones. Silicones do fit well, but the problem is they heat my ear canal up quick.
The problem with the silicones is, for me, they plug my entire ear canal, and then it draws a vacuum at some point, which is really bad for your ear.
So that's what I'm saying is, you know, go buy some comfort tips and go get some foam ones. That would be my first recommendation.
I think the foam is disgusting. I don't like the idea of the foam.
Well, regardless, I mean, the one thing about the Jaybird design is you can pop them off and put new ones on. So that was one of the first, like, standardizations they had, plus their wingtips. The wingtips, if you get them adjusted right, you get the right ones. They kind of just, like, keep the thing from pulling out of your phone and doesn't require some kind of infrastructure to ear wrap your whole ear to hang the earbud into your ear. So that was their other sort of standardization, right? One of the new things that I do enjoy, but I set it and forget it, which is the sort of a little bit of an EQ control over the Jaybirds through the app. And I think I've even had at least one firmware update. So that's kind of nice. So there's that. And you can share your favorite EQ with people if you want. For me, I think I typically keep it on warm or R&B. I found that while I was tweaking it, I was, you know, worked great for one, but not for another. And then I just kind of picked one, and then it works pretty well. Unless I get to something live, I won't really adjust the EQ on it. I will tell you, the X3s, the sound is so excellent, for me at least, that there are some songs where they have these very subtle little things, like there's whispering or there's certain kind of sounds in them, not to spook you out, but that's just sort of part of the ambience of the song. And I literally had to pause my phone a couple times and roll it back because it sounded like someone was in the room with me. I mean, that's how good they are. And I will say the Jaybird Run is not as good as the X3s. The driver's smaller. And it just happens to be, that seems to be the science for me. That seems to be the batch and the chemistry. And the X3s don't really hang heavy on my ears. I can wear them comfortably for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours before I pop them out for a second to give my ears a rest and pop them back in. And I do get typically a good 8 hours out of it. I could be listening to them most of my workday. And then, like, I personally, as a human, need a break. I'll pop them in, put them, and let them charge, right?
Does the X3? They also tell you how much charge it has?
Yeah, you got two ways of doing that. When you have the Jaybird app on your phone, you get a little icon at the top that gives you a little, like, battery meter, and it's more accurate than the generic, you know, thing. If you hit a certain, like, I think the button down or the up button or something, just for like half a second or something like that, it'll go, 80% battery, right? It'll tell you on start, it'll tell you and all that. So there's that. What else? The X3s have some extra stuff in it that I won't really use, but you can pair two of them together. And one of them is the primary connectivity to the Bluetooth, and you can share basically your headsets between each other from one to the other.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're a couple, right, and you're on a plane, right, one of you can be connected and listening or watching the same movie, right, and you can interconnect them to each other. They don't intercom or anything like that as far as I know, though that would be a neat feature, but no, they don't do that. And I will tell you, the range on it, at least in the office, is actually pretty good. I get somewhere near 100 feet away from my desk before they'll kick out.
Yesterday, I was trying them out because I got them in yesterday evening.
Yeah.
And when I walked away from my PC, I was just maybe 7-8 meters away from my PC, and then suddenly
what, about 18 feet? Is that what that translates
times
to?
3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 24.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just been weird when I first got them. I just impulsively got up from my desk, didn't have any earbud tug away from me, and I was like going towards from my desk to the area where the bathrooms are, which are through sort of an infrastructure tunnel. And I mean that by, you wouldn't see that by being in the office. It looks like you walk through this area that's all of like 15, 20 feet long, or less. But all the plumbing's around there. So inside the walls, there's lots of obstacles for signals. And I just impulsively walked away. And that's a good 70 feet from my desk. Now, that's a straight run. That isn't like diagonally through other obstacles. That's literally like on the edge of where my desk is down the hallway. And it's like, it just, you hear whatever I was listening to stop. And then I walked, all the way down the other side of the building to go where I needed to go. And I came back. And then as soon as I hit that same area, it goes, headphones connected. And then I tapped a little unpause and I continued listening. And at the first time it happened, I clued in and go, oh, holy crap, I'm like 75 feet away. And Bluetooth range limitation is typically about 30 feet or 3 meters. And they've gotten a little better now where they're getting on the newer Bluetooths, getting them to be about 45 feet or near, a little more than that. I don't know what that translates to meters without doing a calculation in my head.
Divided by 3. Yeah.
So, so I mean, with that said, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And I can tell you with other Bluetooth headsets, I've not had that kind of range or that kind of consistency. And I've never had problems where they click out, at least on the X3s. On the runs, sometimes they have trouble intercommunicating with each other. It takes the little out of sync for half a second, and then they'll resync back in.
Well, if I find that I like these, and that's still debatable, then I might go buy some of the other ones. Just get the X3s maybe.
Look, I would have bought you a pair if you didn't tell me, don't send it to me, you'll never make it to me from the U.S. Otherwise, I would have bought you a box and I would have shipped it to you. If I could ship it from the U.K. or something with, I would totally do it. But like you said,
I wanted to test these out, and these were on sale. I saw them. I was like, hey, wait, that's not that expensive. It's like, it's a special one. This one was for sale. Yeah.
So I mean, I think this is a step
special
forward.
Edition. That's what it says on the books.
If you're completely losing hope, I wouldn't just completely shut it out at this point. My recommendation would be probably the X3s. Now, you have iPhone, you have Apple stuff. So, I mean, yeah, okay. So everyone complains that the X3s or the runs are a lot more expensive. They're supposed to fall on that, AirPod competitor, right? They're basically priced at the same price as an AirPod.
Yeah, I'm not.
I suspect that the AirPods are probably more of an elegant solution by comparison. The runs aren't bad. My only kind of complaint is, after a few hours, I gotta pop them out. It just, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know, just like I get into an uncomfortable stage with them after somewhere about 3 hours. Now, if you're running, right, you're not running for 3 hours straight. You're, you
walking to work or something like that.
But the advantage is
cleaning the house.
With the Jaybird runs, I can pop them right out, put them right in their cradle, and then close the cradle, and they'll recharge, and it pauses, what I'm listening to. And when I pull them back out, it'll resume, as long as assumes that's the thing it can reconnect with Bluetooth. With the X3s, I just lean up and go, hit the little pause button and pull them out, and they're hanging on my neck. So when someone comes up and starts talking to me, and it looks like a silent movie while I'm listening to something else, I could just pop them right out and pause it. And I can't really do that with the runs because they're popping them out just allows them to continue unless you go through and kind of hit that little pause. You can't do it in any elegant fashion that isn't disruptive. So
anyway, I think that's enough about headsets. Again, So we did the second run of the runs. I've also been testing out some self-improvement apps.
Yeah.
I've been playing with streaks. It's not streaking. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, SI streaks. Yeah, what is that?
Polymatic.E5.
Yeah.
Basically, it's an app that allows you to set goals. Like, for example, let me just grab my phone and tell you what I have as goals for myself.
Okay.
Walk 5,000 steps,
which
is something I put in. This is one of the default ones that they show you. Record your weight, take vitamins, clean a room, eat vegetables. That's stuff I put in, of course.
Right.
Make a video for YouTube. Check that one off. Finish an art piece for your book. That's something I put in there for myself.
Got you.
Work on your own coding projects. And then there's work on Polymatic, of course. And some other crap that's more personal. But there's like, you can put stuff in there for like 4 days a week, 2 days a week, maybe twice a day or something like that. Right? So it's very simple. And as soon as you like complete one, let me see if I can complete one. Work on Polymatic, right? So I have one and I can just press the button and it tells me I have done it. Great. So I put in for work on Polymatic, I think 2 days a week.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple thing, and it was recommended to everybody by Tara M. Wheeler, so one of the I think she's like a lawyer or something.
Oh, okay.
Into security type stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I don't know the name.
Cybersecurity fellow, author, women in tech, blah blah blah. Anyway, I follow her because of the guy Malware Tech Blog, the guy who got arrested in Las Vegas last year because of the it was a malware. What was the name of that thing? Anyway, so he was arrested for that, and she's one of his lawyers, I think.
Got you.
And I'm just following that. But the app is really good. She was like, I don't really do resolutions, but I start this because she has to give herself a habit. Now, I've done this in the past where I obsessively start to do certain things and write them down that I did them, because that gives me a habit, and then I can keep that habit going. And habit forming apps are a good way to get you to improve yourself. So that's what I'm doing.
I've been down this kind of route a lot, and I recognize that I'm conscious of the things I want to do, but then I allow my impulse or my comfort impulse to beat me out into a pattern. So when you start out
slacking off,
you start out, the year strong, and you're mindful of it, and you're resonant of it, and you take agency, and then you get towards the end of the year and you fall back into your patterns. And so I've done enough of this over the years that I know where to beat myself up in the right ways, corresponding to that. So you're right. But
the whole gamification of it, like giving yourself a little jingle when you, hey, I've done it. Yes. And that's very, 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 it's reinforcing.
I think it is. For me, though, I don't need that. I actually find some of those componentries kind of annoying. It's kind of like what Foursquare was trying to push everybody out to go be social. Yeah, go places, go discover. Fantastic. But, they were being obnoxious about it. And what that was their strength and give them a high, good valuation when they started out. Most people fall out of fad very quickly. And we all have these kind of patterns, and I recognize them about myself. So I do have one little thing at work where I print out a calendar, and I mark off all the things that are important for me to be mindful when I'm focused at work. I can look up at it and glance and go, oh, right, got a doctor's appointment. Oh, great, Polymatic this Saturday. Right, I can just look at it and, remind myself, basically level set myself back into position for these things. But I typically have an app that I'm really just sort of, at this point, I have such a regimen in place I'm fairly aware of what I'm doing every day, every morning, regarding these things, the regular things I have to do, that I don't really, I'm just sort of managing its annoyance of notifications, on my phone.
Go away.
You're right. But with that said, it's called regularly, regular, LY. And just one word, it's an Android app. I don't know if it's available or equivalent of it on iOS. And it's a thing I've had since maybe even as early as Android 3.0. It's just an app. It's not super pretty or anything. It's really straightforward. It allows a lot more complexity than I use it for. I created all these little sectional areas. You could say food shopping, projects, work. Right? These are things for tasks that repeat. Things you do often. Right? Once a month, once a day, every day. Things that repeat. Repeatable, regular things.
Well, and something like the Streaks app is not going to be very useful for that,
right?
Because you can only put in 12, maximum 12 things. But it's good for forming new habits. If you do, let's say you don't eat veggies every day, and you need to learn to eat veggies a lot. So you put one of those in there, and you just do it once a day, and then you write it off. Another application that I have on my Android is what's the name of that thing? Remente. It's self-improvement type thing. Mm-hmm. Eat less sugar is one of the things. What's the other one? Make others enjoy my company. Other goals you can add. There's different types of things that you can do, and it tells you to rate how you're feeling, do all sorts of other stuff on there. It's a more general self-improvement type thing. I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm really just gonna check it out, see if it works.
Regularly, just it's real simple. You put in a thing, you say when, how often, whatever. Boom, it gives you a log. That's it. Straightforward. Lets you be the adult in the situation. We're all personally rating our feelings on a subject. Great. I don't need a diary of a log of that. For me, that's not important. It's I get it done. Now, with that said, in my week, there's 2 days that are utilized in my nights. Well, okay, one day, Sundays are dominated by one podcast, and then one evening is dominated after work by working on editing that thing. And then I have other regular things throughout the week. So, I know what my course is, and I have windows where everything gets shifted and regularly gets a little upset. It's like, you're overdue by, or I shift it up and it says it's 7 days, due in 7 days, and you got 1 day, and I, do it the day before, then it kind of off shifts its regular pattern. But again, I can, have it yell at me. And then when I hit the more correct alignment date, I say it's done, just like, our recording for Polymatic. It was very unhappy for 2 weeks. Off. Yeah. I was very unhappy for that month or whatever. Right. Yeah. So, but anyhow, regardless of that, so that's how I kind of do it. And I put the onus more of on my head and my behaviors. Then I forcibly allow an app to kind of schedule me. I've tried them. I ended up not using the app. I was just sort of managing the annoyance of its notifications away.
I tried to use Epic Win a long time ago. It's basically an RPG style thing where you put in tasks and you have to complete the task. What I like about the Streaks thing is that you don't earn points or something like that, because you don't do anything with the points. All you're doing is trying to form a habit, and this thing I think works better because you can just limit to a couple of things, but Epic Win had you have to assign points to a certain task, and you need to manage those tasks. And
I think some people need that. They need a reward system. I kind of don't need it. I just need to get it done.
But you could build a character, and you had a skeleton. You could be
Could you socialize your?
Yeah, and share it on Twitter when you completed certain things.
Those kinds of things would annoy me. That's why I never use them. So, all right, it's cool. Well, then maybe we'll check in and later and find out
Let's see at the end of the year if I actually complete any of that crap.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing on a recent podcast, and like, all right, you know, here's the experiment. We'll get to the end of the year, we'll see if I did all these things, you know, because I don't do resolutions. I have lots of stuff I want to do, and finding the time, and then fighting with my general impulse, and then fighting with my comfort zone, and I would say the end of last year and into this year, I've been pretty strong on improving that about myself. It didn't come quickly, and I'm not saying that, you know, a year from now I'm going to have that same kind of competency about myself. But I've been just sort of like, well, why? I was evaluating, well, why do I feel like I got to stay up and watch all this crap so I can get it done? I would rather just go to sleep. I need that sleep. Like that's more healthy for me in my lifestyle than feeling like it's not a priority for me to watch all the stuff in a timely fashion through my week. Like, let it go. You can catch up with that like on your weekend or something, right? Like, now I'm having these actual more relevant arguments in my head. Instead of satisfying my impulse to be completed, stop satisfying that need and start satisfying a more logical, you know, that this is the better thing to do, and let it go, right? I said that last year or two, let it go. And so that argument is not with that, not backed by that song. And so to that point, like, you know, this is how I figured it out, but you're also talking to somebody who's always busy. And it's not, I'm not always busy out of a void. It's kind of like you have lots of ideas, lots of things you want to do, and you want to execute on them. And there's only so many hours in the day, and then you got to go to work for most of them. And then they not only saturate, but they sponge up most of your energies in these areas. And you get home, and then the last thing you want to do is be productive, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, I've over the last couple of weeks, I've been, of course, I had like a week and a half off work.
Yeah.
So that was kind of good. So I did do a lot of art. That was good. And did get a lot of posts for that. I got a few hundred more followers for that. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think that I realized then that doing the art made me a lot happier than doing other stuff. So I'm going to continue doing the art stuff because I want to finish another book this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think these things are sort of, you got to have some presence. And again, this is my nature. I eventually realized when I wasn't happy about things, I was just swinging through life like most people do without any real thought. And, you know, you watch a thing, it makes me happy. Let's do some more of that. I eat a thing, it makes me happy. Let's do some more of that. Oh, I'm unhealthy. Oh, that doesn't make me happy. That makes me feel sick. But let me eat more of this comfort stuff because that makes me feel happy. Oh, I'm getting sicker, right? You have to hit like these extremes and these comforts. And then eventually I became mindful, like somewhere something knocked in my head. Nobody did. No one slapped me up the side of the head. I realized, oh, this is not a good pattern. Let's forcibly change this. And that's the difficult thing. And that took years. And then when I was out of my 20s, I got in my 30s. And that was, again, hitting these sort of angsty pattern impulses to, you know, get things done. And again, as I got older, I got a little more zen about stuff and recognizing and refining and being a little present-minded while I'm doing something and realizing, why are you doing that again? Stop doing that. You know better. And then going through a couple years of saying that in my head to actually realizing, yeah, okay, I'm sick of hearing myself say that to myself. I'll stop doing that. And let's just actually make the change. And you go, well, you don't like the change. I don't care. It's obvious that I need to change. This is not a good direction. And again, these things take not 5 minutes. They don't take 2 months. They aggressively take time. You know, my ability to be persistent could run for years. That's why I'm still podcasting.
Also persistent in bad habits too. Right?
Yeah, but it can also, and so because of that, like, you know, I still, so here's a perfect example. I'm sitting on a chair with lots of pillows on it. I had this chair in the old house, and this old house, and I bought this $150 chair, And, when all of them were like $500 an average, even when the uncomfortable ones. And I bought this chair, and the foam on it basically like dissolved itself, and then I put duct tape around it. And my persistence to adapt, and it's like, it's fine. And it's not like I couldn't afford an expensive chair. I just didn't. So I had extra pillows because I bought extra pillows because people were hanging out the house more often than staying over. And then I started stacking them on my chair. And here I am, a decade plus, moved in to another house, and I brought the chair with me.
Yeah, I've been telling you to get a new chair since, I think, 2008.
Right. And
it is now
but here's the thing
10
about
years
it.
later.
I'm so not present of it. I just sit on the chair, I do my thing here, record whatever it is, and then I'm out. And then I don't. But I know I should just replace this chair.
Or you should start a GoFundMe for Alan, just send him a new chair.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, my persistence to adapt is like, I got it in such a medium place, it doesn't bother me. And if it was poking me in the side with a hot knife all the time, then yes, okay, I would get pissed off and I would replace the chair. With that said, in 2 weeks, you're going to check in with me, and I will not have replaced the chair.
Yep. That will become a running question. Did Alan get a new chair? And did the Ono printer arrive yet? I did get an email from those guys, though.
Oh, yeah?
They told me that, everybody on the list, that they were still stuck with the old board. So they're going to continue working on the thing with the old board, with change the frequency or something. So that's good. So maybe we'll see it at some point.
Maybe we should make a little a running little horse race of this, because I got the.
Will John get his Ono first, or will Alan replace his chair?
Well, no, but there's also other Kickstarters. The Mubiko, whatever, is supposed to come this year, maybe a month or two. I don't think it'll ever come. And then the guys who did LumiCube or LumiCube, these little like Bluetooth enabled like lights. I got their next iteration of their Action Light. I think I forget what they're calling it, but it was like the life, I don't know, Life Light or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember anymore. But they were having Chinese New Year problems, right? And so they're kind of living in that hell. And so they make a video every 2 months. I suspect they will follow through. I just think they actually had, small company dealing with bad manufacturers in China difficulty, right?
The same problem as people that, over the holidays in the U.S. and in the Western world, usually, it's hard to get people on the phone. It's hard to get things done in the last few weeks of the year. No, the same thing goes for Chinese companies.
Yep,
you're gonna get boned in that area of the year.
So I mean, I think that's when your pre-target should be like this time of the year, and your actual production target should always be mid of the year. The middle of the year. But anyhow, aside from that, we should probably have a little spreadsheet or something. Who's gonna win?
Who's gonna get most of his Kickstarters?
Yeah. Well, you only got one you got to worry about. So,
yeah. I got a Nintendo Switch. I got a Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah. And
I decided to give myself a gift, and I've been really enjoying Zelda Breath of the Wild. I haven't played a Zelda game ever. I have no idea about the backstory, but it's the first console I got that I haven't regretted after a day.
I will tell you, as a reasonably affordable, pretty cool looking gadget, I want one. That's my impulse. The reality is, I probably won't play it that much.
So what I've been doing is, before I go to bed, I play like half an hour. Yeah, that's it. And that's more than enough that I want. I don't want to go in all in. I can go all in. I can play that game for hours and hours and hours. But I'm forcing myself to enjoy it, and then maybe do a little quest, little thing, and that's it. And then go to bed.
Yeah, and so
by limiting myself to that, I think I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. And it's a good device. It's a well built one. I haven't dropped it yet, so that's good. But if you look at the DS, for example, I think the hardware was too simple for that, for it to be a good device. I have a PSP. Again, another device that is portable, but it was hampered by its cartridges.
Yeah.
Like it had a little disc thing on the back, which is a stupid idea. So I think that the Switch, it does come with very bitter little cartridges. If you taste them, it's very bitter.
Yeah, everyone was licking them. And they're like, what are these? I did not lick the cartridge. Because we don't want people licking the cartridges.
I did not lick the cartridge.
Whatever.
I did not. But it also comes with an SD card, so you can put an SD card in there, put your games onto the SD card if you need to.
That's cool.
I really like it. I'm going to play some more games. I bought an old Neo Geo game, King of the Fighters, I think. Mm-hmm. And I bought a Crawl. It's like a dungeon crawler with where you have one human and then other people can play with you. So you can make a party game.
Yeah.
You can have them play the ghosts and they can take over the dungeon. So parts of the dungeon. So they spawn as little characters in your dungeon, and you have to fight those characters as the human. And then when you die, one of the ghosts can take over your body. So they can become a human again. Humanity regained. And then you level up until level 10, and then you can go fight the boss. And then escape.
That was one of the things with the DS. I've eventually found a couple games that I liked, and then the SPs, right? Originally, the SPs were so reasonably inexpensive and whatever, and then one of the nice things about the SPs and the DS is with all my friends all had the same thing. And so when we would travel to conventions together, we were on the plane or we were wherever, we were playing games together. But the Switch, I got a few people in my life that I would totally do that. I would play with them, but I'm not in the same place they are all the time, that kind of thing. And even then, I don't have good gaming habits. I'm either in for a little bit or in for a satisfying.
Very obsessive playing Minecraft for hours on end.
After I burned myself through the Minecraft and a little with Moonbase, I recognized not to do that anymore, and that was my 2017 pattern and habit that I fixed. I fixed about, so now I can just go in for a little bit, do a little bit, iterate, just kind of, grind a little, right? I don't need to do a lot, just to fill a void. It doesn't fill parts of my life up. It just fills a need for some kind of multitask attention void, right? Watch some TV, play a game, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, but anyhow, outside of that, so we got some fun stuff, right?
One more thing. Did you see Last Jedi?
I did, yeah.
What was your thoughts?
I didn't have many complaints, no. I also didn't overthink it or overanalyze it because then I wouldn't have any fun about watching it.
It was a very fun movie.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I have to say, I really liked, although from what I hear is that Mark Hamill didn't have that much fun. I really enjoyed the way he did it. Yeah. It's like he's the cranky Yoda.
Yeah.
Right? And the kooky Yoda figure. Yeah, and then a certain someone shows up and is let's spoil it, but
let me say this. I like that it had a sense of humor that only could be put in place from one character. See, Star Wars only had one kind of person who created levity, and that was Han Solo. Now not Han Solo anymore. Now other characters are putting moments of levity, and it's not coming from one source. So I like that component about it, where there's a little bit of humor in it, where these are people who know each other and are having a reasonably good time about it. Are there some moments that are sappy and oversaturated with sappiness? Yes. But that wouldn't be a reasonably good movie if you didn't.
Did you like the space milk? Did you like the space milk?
So
cringe.
So there are some things that are good that they're over and done with. So they say, right? Did so and so actually die? I don't know. We didn't see the dead body. We just saw the implication of maybe.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's more than one, right? So,
Oh yeah, there's actually plenty of people that die.
yeah. So I mean, what's the importance there, right? Now, with that, I will say, and this is not a spoiler, of course, the part that I was looking for at the end in the credits was, were they going to say, pay homage or say something nice about, Carrie Fisher? So, and so that was nice. And that's not a spoiler. Look, it's in a couple months. You're like, oh, I was looking for. Were you not expecting that? I mean, seriously, it's just a question of what did they do. And
did you stay till the end?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Did you stay to the very end?
The very, 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 very end. I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay, you should have.
Should have. Okay,
yeah.
So there was something extra. So now the propensity of my friends, one of them. I haven't seen since last year, so it's been probably like 3 weeks. He's probably seen it 9 times. So
I might go see it again this week.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if I want to go see it, I will have somebody, a partner in crime, to go do that. So, but like I said,
from what I hear is that the second and third viewing is actually, you see a lot more about the stuff that you missed when you were bombarded with visual stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise, I will say one of the awesome gifts that I got, and I didn't know it when I got it, and thankfully it was well appreciated, because you never know when you give a gift whether someone's going to appreciate it or not. So before the movie even came out, weeks, maybe even a month and a half before, I got a gift for a friend, which was a 2-foot Chewbacca that had a half-foot porg on his shoulder.
Porg.
And if you tap his gut, Chewbacca makes a varying number of different Chewbacca noises. So I got this thing, I bagged it up, and I handed it to my friend, and I wasn't sure if he was gonna like it. So he pulls this thing out and he starts laughing. He starts pulling this thing out, and I said, apparently it talks, and he hit the gut, and it went, whatever, made a Chewbacca noise. And then, again, didn't know what the porg was. Was that going to be a Jar Jar or what? Didn't know. So, anyhow, that was kind of neat, and that was one of the highlights for me, having seen the film and having see that it was a well-received gift.
Okay, so let's head over to the fun stuff.
Yeah, just a few. And literally, we mean just a few.
Yeah.
Times 2. So I got one. This is a TED Talk, which is kind of interesting, where they basically created like a, I forget, was this MIT? Did you watch the video? Yeah.
I did watch the video. I think I skipped through it because I think I saw it before.
Yeah.
I think we shared something like this before.
Yeah. Well, regardless of what it is basically this physical UI interface. So when you're collaborating with somebody, I don't know, let's say through Slack or through a video conference or on the phone, and let's say if you're an architect, right, you could basically create your model of your building, and this physical interface, this machine will actuate and will create out of this sort of like 3-dimensional blocky grid, will create these sort of fingers of the building. So you can say, this is the house I want to build, and then you can literally raise the roof virtually, and on their other end they'll see an actuated model physically at it, and they can walk around and look at it. So it's just sort of like a shape-shifting interface, and I think it demonstrates some good examples of this idea. I thought it was interesting, and so it's Polymatic.link/E2.
I think the resolution is still too low.
Sure, I agree with that.
It's too low to make any,
But this is one of those things where someone goes, oh, that's neat, comes up with some more ideas, and then they start iterating, evolving it. And if they stay on it, maybe this does become a thing that is, a kind of interface, a physical kind of interface that we could use.
Yeah. Okay. I've been following Kazuna which was it's like a virtual YouTuber. It's actually kind of funny.
It's kind of creepy.
It's kind of creepy. So they made a video with the Backstreet Boys, "Everybody," that song, and they I think the the person behind, because I actually made this video. So Polymatic.link/DEV for that. It's a creepy and funny at the same time.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of creepy, especially the hold at the end there. But I will say though, it's better animation than some of shows that come out that is just all like 3D models and motion cap.
So for
voice actresses.
For the channel, what they do is they have a person actually they motion capture somebody. So it's actually motion capture,
right?
And they do all the animation based on the motion capture on the fly. So they actually do live streams with this. So
right, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, whatever they're doing here is much better application than I've seen in shows that are like half-hour anime doing similar
they
things.
could probably make an anime out of this. They also have she also drops F-bombs a few times a week, I think. So but like a Japanese person dropping an F-bomb, so it's really funny. Polymatic.link/DV for that.
I found this I saw this, I don't know, recently. I just put in the list. Polymatic.link/E3, and this is just a BBC video. It's short, but I thought it was interesting. I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's called Hidden. I'm calling it Hidden History. Did you watch this video?
I did watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I think I already knew this. But,
I might have as well. I feel like I might have seen this video before, but I don't know. I thought it was something worth sharing.
Yeah, it wasn't about the video. It's more about the whole history of this part. But
yeah,
it's fine. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So recently, did you see that thing about people in LA freaking out about a glowing thing in the sky?
I did not, but I knew this weekend because I have someone I know who's like, he loves all things space, and he was telling me about Elon Musk was going to propel in the Falcon 9 his first Roadster, the first Tesla
it's the Falcon
Roadster.
Heavy, but that's the thing that's going to launch soon. But this was about a rocket they launched off Vandenberg.
Yeah.
And it was caught by the light over the horizon, so the sun was still shining over the horizon, and then it bounced against that exhaust, and that created a little space thingy.
Yeah.
People thought
so
that
if
was
you watch the
UFOs.
video, it looks really beautiful and interesting all at the same time, but if that was over your head, you'd be like, oh my god, what's going on? Like, you'd be a
there's
little
this thing
out.
when there was a light when the lights went out in LA one point, the people were afraid that there was a glowing cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
The universe, the Milky Way. Okay. So that's Polymatic.link/DW.
Yeah. So this is just I don't think it's not safe for work, but let's just assume it is. This is just, there's a guy who used to create more of these things, Tom Ridgewell, but he goes by Tom Ska, and I still follow his channel, and it seems like once a year he'll put out something absurd or funny like this. Imaginary Friends is what I'm calling it. I'm not going to ruin anything any more than that. Polymatic.link/E4. Been following this guy for a number of years, and he puts out really kind of funny, absurd videos, or just something comedic. So expect something you don't expect to happen. Did you watch his video?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
It reminded me of Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, okay. So anyhow, I thought it was, I like when this guy produces things that aren't like inward, meaning like, he's doing half-hour videos about his, anxieties. I mean, I don't mind those things either, but he does put out these sort of viral capable videos all the time. It's just what he puts out when he does put them out. So
yeah, okay. Tulipmania, Polymatic.link/DY. People were obsessed with tulips at some point, and basically the thing that's going on with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, so check it out.
Yeah, I didn't know about tulips until you told me about this stuff, and then this kind of gives a more in depth how that actually would work, and why that would work. I thought it was interesting. So if John Cell was not enough, I think it's interesting. If you're curious about how currencies work and how they maintain value or whatever, this offers a very interesting perspective. So Polymatic.link/dy.
Yeah. Okay. We got a music corner.
Yeah.
And I'm starting first, apparently. Daigo Hanada.
Yeah.
Polymatic.link/du. It's a piano piece. He does some pretty good music. Let's go check him out.
The only one I had for this week is she's not a new artist. She's been around for a little bit meaning my awareness of maybe is a couple years. But I never really took much time to check out what she does, and I did recently. And I fell in love with her sense of sound. And you know, one of the things is a lot of these independent artists that I like, when aside from like whatever the music is, when you start listening to what they're saying, there's actually far more meaning than the typical like mass market person who just repeats like, you know, one sentence 100,000 times, right?
You mean it's not everybody?
Like yeah, right. And so she falls into that area, but there's a lot more meaning behind it. I kind of wanted to describe her as what's the best way? It's human, it's honest, and it's coming from some intimate center of something, right? Or talking about a perspective of thought or love or relationships, but it's coming from an inward center that actually has attached meaning. And I grabbed what I could grab, and there's more than these 3 videos, but I wanted to give you 3 videos, no particular order. I think the last one might be the one that I love the most, but Polymatic.link/DZ, E0, and E1. This will lead you to her Vivo channel, and she also has an actual like YouTube channel, right, which is where it all started. And you can see the early demo versions of her just sharing a live whatever run of this. And then you can see, you know, one of these videos where it became an actual video. Yeah, so Sick of Losing Soulmates is one that I thought was really good. I don't know, I really enjoyed that. It's the one that sort of kind of stuck in my head. So I just wanted to share her as an artist. That's it. I think my recommendation, I don't know, John, if she fits sort of your mood kind of sound that you seem to see.
I forgot the music corner again. So I didn't listen to any of your stuff on the music corner.
I didn't listen to yours at all. So again, that was Polymatic.link, DZ, E0, and E1. That will just take you over to Revivo. And then once you know how to spell Dodie, from that point, I think if you're curious, you can find her channel. So.
Yeah. A little other thing about normally I have a book corner. I'm still working on my way through The Rise and Fall of Dodo. It's a Neil Stephenson book with Nicole Garland. It's actually pretty good so far. I'm about 25 hours. It's about 24 hours long. I'm about 5 hours in, and I've already like, wait, this could have been like a book on its own, like the first 6 hours. So that's an interesting one. And I'm also listening to The Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House. That's going to be an interesting one. I still have 4 hours to go on that one. So
yeah,
I'll go check it out, see if it's worth discussing.
Before we leave you, I just wanted to say that I added Polymatic over on OGNetworks.tv, the website said I would get done before the end of last year. So, you know, if you're curious, you go over there. There is a channel for Polymatic if you want to check that out.
I've also been working on Shortener, and I should have the new Polymatic up well before the next episode. So
okay, cool.
That's going to be, and then you can add podcasts and collections and all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, I could dump all my 2017 links in there, and then I can just seek out for new links instead of going to the archive.
Queue them up for the next episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CHAESS is my last name.
You can find me at Twitter on WebDevie, WebDevie. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. Our Twitter's The Polymatic. The website is Polymatic.media, and I hope you tune in next time. Really, tune in. Do it.
Yay.
The music in this episode was by Say Uns. It was licensed under Creative Commons Attribution and found on the Free Music Archive. You can find these tracks at shortner.com/PRK.